in the library on the computer. I'm not going to do that. And then there's just kind of waiting for it. Pretty fun, guys. Find the feet, please. Bring it over this feet here, but there are no chairs. Can you see the screen from where you are?
Want to be handshake.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk to you for probably 15 or 20 minutes. Take your cups off, guys, please. All right, then you're going to split up into groups for the remainder of lesson 5 until 2:15, okay? And then from 2:15, I'm going to be in 6.1 and you come and get your GCSE certificate from me. Okay, these are formal documents, but I need a signature and I need to see some form of ID from everybody, even if it's just a bank card, like a debit card with your name on it. So hopefully you've all got it.
I don't have a formal ID.
We'll address that problem when we get there at 2:15, all right?
Tell you my dad. I can tell my dad both.
Now, we're going to talk about this. I'm still waiting for some.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark was going to push out red. Okay. All right. So as I said, last lesson we were talking about university. That is our biggest percentage of sixth formers end up going for the next step. Yeah. But our next biggest percentage, so maybe about 20% of our students end up going on to some type of apprenticeship. So we're just going to talk to start circulating. Thank you. Please only take your name off and then pass it on. I know there are some people doing netball and those kind of things. I'll find those lists later, right? So just take your name. Okay, so we're gonna have a little quick look at different types of apprenticeships and the pros and cons of apprenticeships, and then I'll give you your instructions that you're going to go on and look at. All right, so an apprenticeship means that you get training alongside a job. Different to a university degree where you're just studying. That would be going from school and then take back here from school and straight into another environment where you're studying. Yes, it is very different. Yes, you're more independent, but it would be studying and it would be academic focused. Okay, an apprenticeship, you would be tied to a company. Okay, now I'll talk to you in a second about the different levels of apprenticeship. But all levels of apprenticeship mean that you have a contract with a company. Now, depending on the term of your apprenticeship or the length of your apprenticeship, might depend on whether you have a guaranteed job at the end of it or not. Okay. Now, lots and lots of companies offer apprenticeships, and more than ever before, because a couple of years ago the government changed the rules and actually will give a tax deduction or a tax kind of rebate, so they give extra money back to the company if they will offer apprenticeships to train people. That's all right, boys, I can wait. All right, there are incredible amount of apprenticeships around, but every single one of them you will be tied to a company for the duration of it. Now you can get the shortest ones that exist, excuse me, is 12-month apprenticeships. Okay, and they are very, very good if you really don't know what you want to do. Because those 12-month apprenticeships are not enough to train you to have a full profession, but they will train you and help you develop certain skills. So you could have, for example, a 12-month apprenticeship in an office environment, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter what company it is, and you start learning how to do admin or marketing or sales. Danny, what's the problem? Because you keep talking and I'm talking. You just were, because I watched you and heard you. Is there a problem? No, all right. Okay, and then you can go right up to a 4 or 5 year apprenticeship, which would then be looking at a degree level apprenticeship. Okay, and again, I said it depends on how long it is as to whether you apply to the company. Okay, the good thing about doing an apprenticeship, you start to develop skills for work-based skills. Doing studies in university, you're still developing your academic skills and knowledge, and probably your research as well, depending on the course you're doing. But if you're doing an apprenticeship, you're building on your work-based skills, your people skills, your sales, if that's the department you're working. Yeah, very, very practical skills that relate to specific jobs or specific professions. Okay, you will get paid. You will be expected to follow the same kind of working hours as if you were in a full-time job, because essentially that's what it is. Some of those apprenticeships would mean you going off to university or college, as well as working on the job. And we'll talk in a second about degree apprenticeship, because that's slightly different, all right? But alongside, you'll be gaining a qualification and gaining that work-based experience as well. Okay. The downside of getting an apprenticeship is you may be tied into a specific role. So as I said, there are degree apprenticeships where you get a degree through that program. You don't have to pay for your tuition fees, but you might have to work for that company for 2 years. Otherwise, you have to pay back your tuition fees. And if you don't like the company, or you don't realize once you're qualified that that's not quite where you want to go in, you've signed a contract and you're tied to that for a certain number of years. Now, some companies don't do that. They'll give you the qualification and they'll let you decide. They're so confident that they're a good company. Yeah, so PricewaterhouseCoopers, for example, is one of the leading financial kind of auditing, accounting firms. They are so confident that people want to work with them because they're one of the biggest in the world, that they won't tie you in with a contract. They'll pay for your university degree and then they will let you choose. 99.9% of the people who do a degree apprenticeship with them want to stay working for them because they're one of the leaders, as I said, in that field. Okay. The other thing is that it is a workplace environment. Okay, so you would be going from school, and as strict as you think we are with our rules, it's very different to being in a full-time work environment. Okay, so you'd be working 9 to 5 and more if you're preparing for whatever you've got the next day, for example. Depending on the needs, you can get an incredible amount of different types of apprenticeship. It could be a practical one, it could be an admin one. Yeah, depending on what it is, obviously depends on exactly what your job role would be, but it is going to be very, very different to being in a school environment. And in that case, it's very, very different to being in a university. Okay, so that could be one of the downsides, that if you're not quite ready for that, university can kind of give you a nice little buffer if you're not ready for the level of maturity that a full-time job and kind of throwing you right up of differently. Okay. All right, so we've got different apprenticeship. Level 1 apprenticeship. None of you here will go for a level 1 apprenticeship because they are for people who don't even have GCSEs. You're all here because you have a certain amount of GCSEs. Okay. Level 2 apprenticeship, okay, are the equivalent of GCSEs. Okay. So again, you wouldn't be doing that. Level 3 apprenticeship. Okay, so level 3, there will be some people here who, if you go down the apprenticeship route, you would choose a level 3 apprenticeship. Now that is the same level as anybody who hasn't joined the system has got 6 from your 11 GCSE into an apprenticeship. That's the level that they're currently at, which is a level 3. Okay, there will be some people in this room who, after doing the, your A-level and your GCSE at the moment, but I don't want a degree apprenticeship, I want to do something else. And you will go and you will do a level 3. The level of that qualification is no higher than what you're currently studying. The difference is that that's work-based, and what you're doing now is obviously academic. Yeah, difference is that gives you an income, and this doesn't. Yeah. Right, and then we've got higher level apprenticeships. Some are level 4. If they end up getting you a full degree, it'll be a level 5. And then if after you've done a degree and you do a higher apprenticeship, then for the graduate apprenticeship, that's a level 6. All right. Okay. So a degree level apprenticeship, as I've already touched on, you can either apply directly through to a university and say, for example, I want to do a degree apprenticeship in finance, and you apply to the university and they get a you in finding a company that offers that. Okay, or, and this is more common, you apply directly to the company and then they do the paperwork to sort out you being enrolled in university degree. Okay. Depending on the company, they're all slightly different. And I've got examples, and we'll talk about this next year as part of what we do with Year 13 when we're talking about degree level apprenticeship. The idea today is just kind of to get the ball rolling to give you kind of an introduction and basic information. Okay. But so for example, there are some companies where you would go into university 3 days a week, and the other 2 days you're expected to work full-time hours wherever it is they're in the offices. Yeah, there are some other companies where you full-time do your degree, but when the rest of the students start their holidays, you're expected to go in and work. So over the 3 months of the summer, they give 2 weeks off for kind of summer holidays, but the rest of the time you'd be expected to go. So it's almost like a summer work placement. Yeah. So, for example, when I was in uni and most universities the same, and then 2 weeks for Christmas, like we do for school, they get 4 weeks for Christmas. Then again, 2 weeks for Easter, they get 4 weeks for Easter. Yeah. So if you were doing a higher level apprenticeship or a degree level apprenticeship, you'd only get kind of 1 week at Christmas and 1 week at Easter, and the other 3 weeks you could go into the. Okay. So it depends on exactly the nature and the design of that course as to whether you'll be doing it alongside or you'll be doing it in chunks. Okay. Now, the other thing you can think about is if you do want to go down the university route, there's an option of doing university with a placement year. Okay. So if you were going to do something practical like engineering or architecture, or even you can do it in kind of accounting and finance and business and that thing, you can study a degree and then in year 3, yeah, if it's a 3-year degree, you take a pause for year 3, you go and work in industry, you'd be paid for that year, and you'd be getting your work-based experience in that 1 year, and then you go back to university and finish the 4th year. Now, depending on how well you do in that year 3 as to whether you get offered a job with the company you did your placement year with. But that's very different to is a degree level apprenticeship then where you're doing it alongside and you're doing it all the way through. The difference between those two options would be whether you have to pay your tuition fees or not. Yeah. And if we're talking about the tuition fees, which are over £9,000 a year, for 3 years, we're talking about £27,000 without even counting interest. Okay, and you start earning interest as soon as you get your first payment, which is in year 1. Okay, we'll talk about that as well later, and how that has a knock-on effect, and how that doesn't have a knock-on effect for some things, how it would affect you a little bit. Okay, if it's worth for your career, you go into university and having that expense is not very important. It is something we talk about years and years ago, before my generation, university was free for everybody. Started bringing up different prices. So when I was there, it was £3,000 a year. Now it's up to 9 and some places. It is a big thing that I know you need to. So the possibility and the opportunity to have somebody else pay those tuition fees for you might be something that you're interested in. Yeah, it just, one of the things is it gives you less flexibility because you're kind of almost pigeonholing yourself into a certain profession because you're following them, right? So that's pretty much all I want to say, just for you to have a look at. Apprenticeships you can get in an incredible amount of fields, an incredible amount of different types of companies, and even smaller companies, as I said, because they get this extra tax reduction, they are now offering it. So we've got some students who were with us last year who is one girl doing an apprenticeship in a solicitor's office. She hasn't done a law degree, she's doing more the admin side of becoming a solicitor, but there's a possibility that that would lead for her in the future into that field to then lead on to a law degree. You can do, there's an incredible amount of apprenticeships you always hear about in the NHS. I'm talking about obviously doctors and nurses and people working with patients, or kind of admin, yeah, or laboratory assistant, kind of in the lab doing the research. Obviously, there'll be somebody university qualified doing the leading the research, but you helping them. You can get an apprenticeship in something like that. You could obviously get an apprenticeship in mechanics, aircraft mechanics. So Safran, you guys heard of Safran? Is it's close here, it's on the way to Cheltenham. If you kind of go round by, yeah, if you kind of go around by Winsworth, I think it is around there. So Safran, they produce landing gear for aircraft, so the wheels and all that system that comes down when the plane lands. They offer an incredible amount of apprenticeships. Yeah, somewhere like Rolls Royce, Mercedes, kind of that kind of mechanical engineering. You get there are a lot of those, and as I said, kind of business, finance, accounting, marketing. Kind of anything you name, they will be companies that will offer it. We've had journalism apprenticeships and media, film production, that kind of thing, apprenticeships I've seen in that as well. There's a huge range, and it's about finding something that you're interested in, finding something that works for you. Some people in this room will go on for that. Okay, there'll be some people who this isn't the route for you, but it's just about talking about it and telling you that option is. So what I would like you to do now is to move into here, the library, and I'll be coming back and forth to support people in here and in the library, or let me finish my instruction. Or you can go to ND1 and Mr. Edwards is waiting for you there. Okay, the idea for you is to log on to Unifrog and explore their apprenticeship school. Now, Unifrog is currently the best platform that exists for apprenticeships in the UK. Okay, and you can put in the field that you're interested in, the area that you're interested in, and have a look at the different possibilities that are available. So when you log in on the opening page of Unifrog, on the opening page there'll be lots of coloured squares. One of those colours, I don't remember which one off the top of my head. One of them is called the apprenticeship. You click on there and follow through. You can either do search or you can use the different. For the rest of this session, you're going to go off and log into the job and do that. At 2:15, yeah, this session is finished, and I'm going to be in 6.1 with your GCSE certificate. First come, first served, whoever comes through the door. You need these certificates. I obviously did my GCSEs years ago. When I go for a job, that's thank you, it's funny that I'm quite old now. When I still go for a job, yeah, and I've obviously got GCSE, A-level, I got a master's, but I still get asked to do my GCSE little master's certificate. Even though I've got a master's degree. Yeah? So that's how important they are. You need to keep them because for the rest of your life, most of you, every time you go for a new job, they're going to ask you to show that evidence of your GCSE. So it is important that you get them. If you lose them, you will never get another one. What you will get is a statement of results. So it's not quite the same as a national certificate at the time you got it. All right? And if you need a statement of results, you have to pay £20 per subject.
What for an
So some of you have done 9 or 10 subjects.
Oh no, I'm sorry. 24.
20. Yes. I'm not gonna lie, that's true. When the imposter is sus. John, right, fuck off, mate. Time to go into the library. Eric. You already know who it is. It's your boy Eric. Yeah, me neither. You already know who it is. It's your boy Eric. When the imposter is sus.
What, the thing that costs 2p to make? Oh wow, you're making Oh, that I got a free mechanic. Get out like. You know how I got that? I watched the car. Hard work pays. You remember when I used to come down to the gate and I was all sweaty and wet and I had to fucking by a vagina. That's why, motherfucker. That's why. None of you ever knew that.
When the imposter is sus.
Dan burps and then is confused on why the seats are ass. Dan, you
What? Was?
because then you turned around and went. Because when she turned around, you went. Turned around.
When the